Hi everyone, it's Mel here from Gel Candy. So I gave myself some nails, and if you're wondering how I did them or you would like to know how to put crystals on your nails properly, then keep on watching. Okay, so this is what we are working with. I have been picking at them all week. I am using the Gel X Apres system for this design, and it's in the end round short. The first step I do is cleanse the nail with nail cleanser, and for some reason I did not record this step. I don't know why. So then after we finish cleansing, I will get out my favorite cuticle bit. There's so many different options that you can choose from, but this is just the one that I prefer to use. It's what I've always been using, and I find that it just does the job that I like, which is just getting rid of all of that dead skin around the cuticle and just overall tidying up the cuticle area. It's also very gentle on the cuticle area as well. Once we are happy with our cuticles, it's then time for a little bit of filing. Now you want to be very careful with this step. You don't want to be using anything too coarse on your natural nail. So depending on your experience, I would definitely not use anything less than 180 grit. All we're trying to do at this stage is remove all of the shine off the natural nail and any of the dead skin that we have accidentally left behind. I absolutely don't want to be filing any of the nail down, so I am just using very soft and gentle strokes. It's very important not to miss any spots. Now that we have finished that step, we want to remove any of the extra dust that's left behind, and then wiping it off my surface area so it doesn't get back onto my nails. The next step I do is size my tips. This step is so important to get right. If we choose tips that are too small for our nail, it can cause a lot of trauma to the nail and be very painful. If I'm in between sizes, I'll always choose the bigger size. We want the nail tip to fit nice and snug from sidewall to sidewall. If it doesn't fit nice and snug, always still choose the biggest size and then file it down. This will prevent any damage to the natural nails. I find that with Apres, they have so many different sizes, so it's quite easy to get the right size. After we finish sizing the tips, I then prep the tips with the tip primer. We need to do this step because it is a very shiny surface underneath the nail, and shiny doesn't stick, if that makes sense. So what the primer does is it kind of roughens up the surface underneath so that the nail can get a good grip. Also, while doing this step, we want to make sure that we don't miss any parts. So definitely around the edges, around the cuticle areas, we want to make sure that there is no shiny parts underneath. I also apply a little pressure while I'm doing this step. Once I have finished all of the tips, I then place them aside. Then it is time to apply the pH bonder to the natural nail. So the pH bonder actually dehydrates the nail and removes any of our oils or residue that can affect application. Next, it is time to apply the primer. So if we don't want our nails to be popping off within the next week, then we definitely don't want to be skipping this step. Okay, so now that both hands have been primed, it's now time to apply a thin layer of our Extend Gel on all 10 of our fingers. And then I will cure it in my LED lamp for 30 seconds. I actually have a strong lamp, so 30 seconds for me is all it needs. Okay, so now we're actually ready to apply our tips. We need to apply a small amount of our Extend Gel onto the inside of our tip. I think this step is a little bit tricky because you can't put too much gel on the nail, otherwise it's just going to flood the nail with gel. And if you don't put enough, then your nail's not going to last as long as it should. So I think that only with doing it over and over again, you become better at being able to judge the right amount of gel to put on the nail. So it's a bit hard to see, but I've just got a little LED lamp, and that's helping me keep the nail in place just while I do the hand. And then after I do the hand, I will stick the whole hand in my LED lamp for 60 seconds. Okay, now that we've done both hands, they look so good, no air bubbles or anything. I get out my file because I am so fussy when it comes to shaping them. I'm just wanting to give them a nice almond shape. Now once I'm happy with the shape, I will get out my buffer and I'm just going to lightly buff the surface just to get rid of the shine. And then once I have finished buffing all 10 of my fingers, I will remove the dust again and remove any of the dust that's on my surface area, because next we are going into our nail art and we don't want to get any dust on our nails. Okay, so this is one of the great tips to making your crystal designs look really full. So just applying a thin layer of a silver glitter before we apply the crystals. So this will give the illusion that there are no gaps between our crystals, so that we don't have to be so worried about crystal placement or overthink the process. It really will set your work apart from anybody else's. These are just some of the crystals I'll be using today, and this is the glue that I'm going to be using. So for this nail, I am putting a bunch of smaller crystals on the nail. So I put a decent amount of glue and then I just spread it all over the nail with the nozzle. And then what I do is I will get a top coat and I will just brush a light layer on top before I place any crystals down. And then it is just time to go for gold. So I'm not gonna lie, with this nail, because I use such small crystals, it took me forever. But that's okay because I plan to do every nail different. So before I go ahead and cure it, I just want to make sure that everything is in place before we set it. And then I've decided to use some of these bigger crystals on my nails. So when using the bigger crystal, I just placed some of the glue on where I want the crystal to be, and then I will place the larger crystal on top and then cure it before I go around and start adding all of the smaller ones. So a great tip when doing crystal designs like this is we need to make sure that we keep the shape of the nail looking the same, because if we're putting too much crystals on, it can look very bulky. So we want to make sure that we use large crystals in the middle of the nail and small crystals on the outer parts of the nail. That way it won't create a bulky nail and it will keep the shape very nice. And because I've got the glitter as my base, I really don't have to put too much thought into where I'm actually placing the crystals. Right, looking so beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and do my other hand off camera, and then I will place some cuticle oil. Look at them, they're so gorgeous. These nails make me feel so fancy. I just feel so bougie doing the most normal tasks.